Hi, I'm George. I'm the product lead for payments at TrueLayer. So I look after all of our payments products. And I'm really excited today to talk about one of our favorite clients at TrueLayer, Nutmeg, with Charlie, product manager, who have literally just reached their 100,000th customer. And we're the first digital wealth manager in the UK to implement open banking. So this was a really exciting integration for us. So I'll just hand over to Charlie to introduce himself and then we'll kick off.
Hi, my name's Charlie. I'm a product manager here at Nutmeg. I've been here for just over 18 months, working in the payments function and also the acquisition function as well. This is my 6th year of product management, having worked for a couple of years in desktop optimization software, in advertising technology as well. But I was really excited to join Nutmeg in 2019 in the payments team. So I've been involved in the open banking payments stream at Nutmeg since the beginning. It was me who introduced it really to the company in a strong way. Yeah, it's very exciting. It was a great integration.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what open banking payments are and how they work. And then we're going to go a little bit more in detail on how they work for Nutmeg and have a really interesting chat and demo with Charlie. And at the end, we'll have some time for a Q&A. So if any questions come up while you're watching or you have any already, please use the questions tab on Livestorm to submit some questions and we'll have some time to run through them at the end. So what are open banking payments and how can they help you? So we believe that the next generation of wealth tech payments are coming and that they should be low cost, they should be instant, they should be really fast, have really low friction, be really secure for you and your customers, and they should be completely white labeled because you should entirely own your customer from end to end. There should be no payments company brand in the middle. But unfortunately, that's not the way that payments are today. And so we recently did some research with YouGov, which has highlighted a lot of problems in the wealth tech payment space that TrueLayer really comes in to fill a gap in, but is really interesting insights that come from that. And so one of the biggest things that we identified was that speed really matters to your customers. So 1 in 4 customers have missed out on investment opportunities because of slow deposits. So that's 25% of customers aren't actually getting their money in time to meet the opportunity that they're looking to meet. And so this is a really big problem. And at the same time, 8 in 10 investors would be happy to use an instant bank transfer. So 80% of your customers would actually really love to have a really fast way to pay in. And on top of this, 1 in 3 investors said they would actually deposit more if they could withdraw instantly. So whilst it might not seem like the most sensible thing for you to do, allowing your customers to get their money out faster, it actually drives much higher loyalty in your customers and they feel much more financially secure. So 1 in 3 of your investors actually would deposit more if they could withdraw that money straight away. And so open banking solves a lot of these problems. Open banking lets you connect directly to your customer's bank account directly via secure open APIs built by each bank. And so funds are transferred immediately from one bank account to another via those APIs. So your investor goes through an authentication flow, really secure using strong customer authentication built by the bank. And that money goes straight from their account to the wealth manager's bank. It doesn't sit with a payment service provider in the middle at any point. It goes from them to your client money account. The problem with open banking on its own is it's not really a full-scale payment service, just purely as a one-way payment method. And so what we've done is we've taken those payment rails previously only automated by banks or backdoor hacks or things like screen scraping, and we bring them to any wealth manager anywhere. So on top of our pay-in services in open banking, we've built a payout service that allows you to then also offer those instant withdrawals. So we get instant pay-in and instant payout. And so for the pay-in, we leverage your customer's bank to receive instant pay-ins directly into your bank account. So as we mentioned before, you go through an authentication flow, you select how much money you want to send. Your bank then authenticates using strong customer authentication, using the face, fingerprint, PINs entry readers, all the normal ways of logging into your mobile banking or your online banking, and then sends that money directly over faster payments or SEPA Instant in Europe, straight through to the end bank account. What we've built on top of this is a payout service that offers investors instant withdrawals with direct access to instant payment schemes. So instead of having to manually issue batch files to allow your customers to withdraw or issuing really slow backs payments, you can now actually leverage faster payments without having to be a member yourself. And so you can offer instant bank transfers. As soon as that money is made available to that customer, it'll go straight out over an instant bank transfer. And so we've built an open payment service that is completely white label. We really strongly believe that you should own the brand and you should own your customer. Why should a payments company actually own your customers when you're the one that's built their trust up? We know that consumers trust their app that they're using because they've signed up. And we know that they trust their bank because that's where they hold all their money. And so we know that it's really important for a white label service. Secondly, it's completely protected and way more safe for consumers because of biometric authentication and other authentication methods that the banks use. So instead of what you see with card payments, where we see really high fraud rates, now you can go straight through with biometric authentication, straight with the bank, and it's as secure as online banking. On top of this, what's great for the wealth managers themselves is 80% savings and more on card fees, where in wealth, you see much higher average order values. We're seeing way bigger savings for our customers because of the card fees. And finally, and probably one of the most important things is that instant settlement. So we see instant settlement in and instant settlement out all in one go. And so what we're offering is an end-to-end funding solution entirely within your own brand. Your end user can authenticate, pay, verify their bank account, and get their money back out again, all completely compliant, completely secure, and completely AML friendly from end to end. And so that was just a really quick overview of what TrueLayer is doing and what open banking can do. But I'm now really excited actually to stop sharing my screen and start a really good conversation with Charlie about what Nutmeg have been doing and how we've helped Nutmeg implement open banking payments. So this time last year, Nutmeg customers were depositing funds using manual bank transfer, Apple Pay, direct debit, etc. What were the pain points that actually led to you guys implementing open banking?
So when I joined in August 2019, I was put in the payments team. That was really exciting for me. It was a new area that I hadn't worked in before. So I took a good look at what the exact pain points were with each of the payment methods that we had. So obviously card payments and direct debits are super, super common. But we also had bank transfers that customers were sending in. But customers were finding it a little bit hard to set these up or to get the references correct. So we were experiencing a little bit of pain in the customer's perspective, but also internally trying to allocate these payments effectively to customers into their pots. I just thought, there must be a better way of doing bank transfers. So I started to look into open banking a bit more, and I was particularly interested by the payment initiation functionality, how the information and some relevant and helpful metadata can be passed to a third-party initiator like TrueLayer. The payment can be set up, and the user can use strong customer authentication like fingerprint or Face ID to authorize this transaction. It then comes into Nutmeg generally that business day, and that increases our customers' likelihood of hitting the next trading cycle, for example, because the closer the settlement is to the next trading cycle, we typically trade twice a week. We'll trade that money if we've got it, and direct debits and card payments are a little bit slower than that as well. So just this, one of those specific examples of customer pain points, I suppose, is just getting simple things wrong, like a 0 and an O in their reference or an I and a 1, and it seems like, oh, why? It's almost frustrating. Why is this so hard to do? But people were making these mistakes. We're all human. So this was something that I wanted to solve, and then I realized that there are actually a number of other benefits to do with settlements and cost savings. So yeah, it was really important for us to be the first wealth manager to launch this in the UK. And it made sense for us to do this for our customers because these errors were annoying for them and for us as well. And we wanted to kind of solve this problem for them and make them happy. So
it definitely sounds like it made sense. What made you choose TrueLayer?
So we had a look at multiple vendors. There were quite a lot of sort of new kids on the block with sort of new payment initiation licenses. But we met TrueLayer. TrueLayer were one of the first partners that we met. They had a really proven track record in the UK. I think now they've got a number of other digital fintech clients like Free Trade, Revolut, Trading 212. So it was really important for us that like our first foray into the open banking world, which was pretty new for Nutmeg at the time, or about a year ago now, it was important for us to have someone with a really proven track record. So we felt TrueLayer were the best partner that could unlock the benefits of open banking payments, and our wider strategy going forward, which we can talk about in a bit.
Awesome. So to dig a little bit more into actually how you did this, how did the implementation process go across platforms? Like, was there any specific engineering learnings that you guys made in implementing open banking payments?
Yeah, so I mean, integrating with TrueLayer was the easy bit, I would say. It was pretty simple for us to do. We're striving towards service-oriented architecture here. We do, as many startups do, have old legacy systems that we're trying to move away from. Super common. So I would say the hard bit actually doing this was more integrating a modern technology into some older back office processes that we had. And really that's about team alignment. So yeah, it was super easy for us to integrate a new service to TrueLayer and get these single immediate payments being initiated. Lining everything up internally was a little bit harder, just a little bit of friction, but that's completely natural. So it was available. It was important for us to make it available on iOS and Android and web from day one. So there was a number of teams involved there who all had different priorities. But you know, we all wanted to do this because it's a really cool solution. It solves real customer problems, and yeah, it was just a great initiative.
So can you show us what you implemented?
I can, yeah. So let me share my screen. Sorry, classic, struggling with sharing screen. Okay, so I'll just talk us through the demo here. Can you see the demo, George?
Yep, all good.
Cool, excellent. Okay, so let's just get started. So this is an example of us making a payment on a mobile app. So this is what our dashboard looks like. We've blurred some of the money out, but this is an example of the two pots that this customer has set up. So if we click on the Just Invest pot, you can see that you can enter an amount here at the top. You've selected the pot that you want to invest into, and pre-selected here is the bank transfer option. So if you press continue, you can see how much the payment will affect your returns. And then we take it to the bank selection page. So there's loads of banks here now, I think even more than when we first started talking to TrueLayer. We'll select NatWest and proceed. And you can see here that there's that really slick app-to-app redirect on iOS. It works amazingly on iOS, amazingly on Android. So that when we first prototyped this is like one of those really cool moments. I had a little bit of a banking nerd out when that happened. So then you use Face ID to log in. That's strong customer authentication right there. And then what you can't see just there is where you select the bank account you want it to come from. There's also an indicator of TrueLayer being the third-party payment initiator. You press continue, takes you straight back to a browser window where we link straight back to the app. And then we have a nice, neat success screen. So it's a pretty simple demo. It was a pretty simple user experience. So we were really, really pleased with this kind of end product. So I can probably stop sharing my screen now. There we go.
Awesome. Yeah, so it looks like a great integration. We know as a payments company, we know that how important it is to communicate a payment method in a certain way. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you communicate this option to your users and how you effectively tell them it's very different to a normal bank transfer.
Mm-hmm. So we had a blog post, we had in-app notification, we had an in-app pop-up, we had newsletter content to announce this, and we actually made it replace on the website and in the mobile apps the manual transfer information. So all of that, really, we wanted to push people into the open banking world to really reduce the number of errors that people were making when they were setting up new payees or issues that they were having using the manual transfer process. So the way that we communicated this to our customers was, we were communicating that it's the fastest way of getting money into your account, doing a bank transfer. It's a very secure way of doing so with strong customer authentication, and that the information's passed directly to TrueLayer, the third party, and that it's just generally a great user experience. So I suppose we're naturally seeing a little bit more consumer awareness of open banking now. So some people did message us saying, "Oh, is this open banking? This is really cool." But yeah, generally the feedback has been really positive, and it's really started to solve some internal ops process and created some cost efficiencies as well.
Awesome. I think you kind of have answered my next question, which was going to be what sort of results have you seen? What customer feedback have you had, and what sort of cost savings for Nutmeg have you seen?
Yeah, so generally really positive. Since launching open banking payments, well, prior to the launch of open banking payments, I think we had about 5% of one-off payments going through the manual bank transfer process, and now that's at 25%. So those of you sort of in this room who process a lot of one-off payments using cards or another method, you can probably appreciate that that's a reasonably significant cost saving for us. And as I mentioned before, the operational efficiencies that we've gained since implementing this, we used to have a couple of hours a week being spent fixing up and finding accounts when people had entered in references wrong, for example. And we just don't see as much of that anymore. So yeah, it's made quite a few teams pretty happy internally.
So have you planned any more initiatives other than making it the default option on mobile?
Yeah, so what we're seeing at the moment is that the way of paying in on mobile is super slick. You've got that kind of strong customer authentication. You've got the Face ID. You've got the app-to-app redirect. On web, we need to focus a little bit more on making the making the bank transfer process a bit more slick. TrueLayer have the QR code functionality, which we think was helpful. We don't have it enabled currently, but I'd like to re-enable it. And actually, funnily enough, one of the concerns I had when we first enabled this was that a lot of people didn't really know what QR codes were. But QR codes are everywhere now, thanks to this year, thanks to the pandemic. You'll be hard pressed to find someone that doesn't know what a QR code is or how that works. We've got the Test and Trace app relying entirely on QR codes now. So yeah, I think it's going to be quite interesting, and web's somewhere that we want to focus a little bit more on because you haven't got that slick app-to-app redirect. So yeah, we just need to communicate the benefits really effectively to our customers there, and that's what we'll do in the coming months.
I'd love to go a little bit deeper on the differences between platforms that you've mentioned there, with a QR code on desktop versus app-to-app on mobile. What challenges did you see between implementing across platforms?
Challenges did we see across platforms? So I would say that on web, I think the challenge really is the user experience. I think that having the two-factor authentication on on a website, it's not as smooth as on iOS or on Android, where you've typically got that biometric login or a PIN or something. I know there's some banks like Santander, you have to receive a text message with a code in it while you're trying to log into the site. So it's like lots of things going on the web that I think we need to really focus on improving. And then in terms of mobile, the mobile roadmap was really full. So really the challenge there was selling the user experience to them, and it was, I mean, you've just seen it. It was a really easy sell once we built a prototype. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's a common difference that maybe some clients don't understand before they come to us, is that the experience can vary between desktop and mobile, and sometimes it's important to spend a little bit of time optimizing user experience on the desktop side, to drive up that conversion on the desktop side alongside mobile. Other than that, are there any tips that you would give to another business looking to implement open banking payments?
Yeah, I mean, listen to your customers' needs and listen to their feedback, and see if there's any efficiencies you can gain by accepting faster payments, literally faster payments. So yeah, look at what operation efficiencies you can gain from using these kind of automated way of setting up a bank transfer, and the feedback you have from your customers. I mean, we heard that our customers, settlement time matters to some of our customers. If you've got a settlement time of 2 days or on a card payment, or maybe a couple more for a direct debit, you might miss a trading cycle. I mean, we never encourage trying to time the market. That's not part of our investment philosophy, but being in the market when you want to be is probably better for our customers. So.
And can you tell us a little bit more about your open banking strategy? We work with a lot of companies looking to speed up onboarding and use kind of insights based off of open banking data. Are you planning to build any of these features for Nutmeg users?
Yeah, we are. So I alluded a little bit to it earlier. I think those that are familiar with the open banking ecosystem will know there's two parts to it. So we've implemented payments functionality now, but part of the original sell internally for me was that we could use the data aggregation aspects for loads of other parts of the business. So one of the first use cases we discovered is allowing users to update their bank details or update their personal details. We're a regulated company, as I'm sure a lot of the people in this room, they probably work for regulated companies as well. And we need a certain amount of anti-money laundering process and know your customer processes as well. So receiving this information from a bank is a pretty strong way of verifying somebody's identity and that the bank account and sort code belongs to the person that they say it does. So going even further than that, in the next couple of months, we're going to be experimenting with how we can use that information coming back from a bank for onboarding. So maybe we can do a AML or KYC check there, or an affordability check, checking someone's income, just to make sure that they can definitely invest, or even just copying out address, bank account, sort code. That helps us to set our accounts up for our customers.
And what impact do you think open banking is going to have in the wider wealth management market and fintech more generally?
So I think, this year we've already seen, a trend towards, digital solutions being more accelerated. And I think as, the pandemic this year has shown us that, we need to be able to manage finances in an online way. We don't really want to go into branches. At some points this year we couldn't. So the usefulness of these APIs, I think, really has been proven this year, and allowing customers to see like a holistic view of their financial situation, of their financial well-being. That can only be a good thing. And I think the Open Banking Initiative has really helped to drive competition and drive innovation in these areas. And then the pandemic this year has kind of propelled that, I think. And with the specific examples that we've talked about today, helping customers to make payments quickly and in a really secure way into Nutmeg. Perhaps some people wanted to buy when the markets were more volatile, and then for those customers, paying in by bank transfer was an efficient thing to do.
Excellent. So that's the end of my list of questions, but I think we've got a few in the tab on the right over here to answer. So we can start going through, I guess, with the oldest. We've got one question of, did you build verification that the money was actually in your physical bank account before it was released for investment?
Did we build verification that the money was actually in your physical bank before it was released for investment? I'm not totally sure I understand that question. When the user is redirected to their bank, they need to select the account that the money comes from, and then it's actually the bank sends the money to the Nutmeg account using the open banking APIs. So it's not like our customers could contribute money that wasn't in their account, because they were literally viewing their bank account when they were selecting what account to pay from.
Yeah, and the bank will send a rejection if there's no funds available, and they will also fail transactions if they believe they're fraudulent. So there's lots of mechanisms in place to stop you guys thinking you're getting some money first. I also think you guys don't invest until you receive the cash as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We have to have the cash to invest. Yeah, we wouldn't buy yeah, we wouldn't buy stock on a whim, on a promise. Yeah.
Definitely.
Give me 1 second. I'm in a quiet office and the light's gone off. Okay, it's back on. It's because I haven't moved enough in the last few minutes.
So we have a
Sorry, let's
question
continue.
about how you approach deep linking from TrueLayer back into your mobile app after the payment flow. It looks like your website is in between. Was that by
Yeah.
design?
It was by design. I think if I remember correctly, there's deep links and there's another type of link. What's the other type, George?
Universal
Do you
links will
remember?
be the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, one of them didn't work very well for us. We didn't like that implementation, so I think we actually went with deep links in the end.
I think you went
And I
with deep
think in
links
the
on iOS and universal
yeah,
on Android, I think, or something. Yeah.
that could be it. Yeah, thank you for remembering that. It was a little while ago. Lots happened since then. I think on iOS there was a little issue that we discovered that if the user didn't select to reopen the Nutmeg app from the web page, that they wouldn't necessarily be taken back. So it was the deep link that we used on iOS that solved that problem.
So another one is, did you have any pushback on consumers using the payment method?
I think we had one or two pieces of feedback who wanted to buy it from customers who wanted to set up the payee in their banking app. So what we actually did was that very quickly after launch on the mobile app, we added in a link at the very bottom of the bank lists, because we don't necessarily want people to use that because it can be quite error prone. But if they need to use it, the link is there. Manual bank transfer. They can click that button. They can also click a button if their bank isn't listed, if they happen to be listed, if they happen to be using a bank that isn't in that list. I don't know. I can't think of a bank that isn't, but and then we will display the manual transfer information to them. But yeah, no pushback. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive. People thought it was cool. I think it's really cool. So yeah, it was really a positive experience.
So have you used it for recurring payments is the next question.
Not yet. Not yet, but something that I'd quite like to do is have a look at the standing order functionality, because that's also looking like it could be quite a cost-efficient way of collecting recurring payments. And one of the advantages that I can see with that solution is that that there isn't necessarily a third party involved, like a direct debit provider, that the customer and the business also has to have a relationship with. The standing order could be controlled entirely from within the customer's banking app. So they've got a lot of control about cancellation without having to visit Nutmeg. That has upsides and downsides. I think there's with direct debits, we probably get a bit more metadata, but yeah, standing orders is something we'll absolutely look at. We do support that functionality internally, standing orders, because they are just bank transfers. So it's something that I'd like us to investigate.
I think you've done my job of selling standing orders. But we also have some functionality kind of in the mix of the open banking implementation entity, which is called variable recurring payments. That as and when they roll out onto the market with the banks, we'll be looking to implement, which is essentially a direct debit but with faster payments underneath. And so we'll give you guys the ability to do things like roundups. We'll take varying amounts, use one authorization to continue to take more payments. And so it's an exciting change in the industry for us that we'll be implementing as soon as we can. So I think more exciting functionality coming soon. So that actually leads very nicely on to, have you looked up any roundup type functionality?
We have. I did look at roundup functionality. It's something that has been requested from our customers a number of times, and I cannot at the moment see a way of that being particularly cost effective. The roundup functionality that exists in some other like savings apps, it's not completely accurate in that it's taking money out of your account immediately. I mean, I've been a Lloyd's customer from when it was Lloyd's TSB. And they introduced some functionality called Save the Change, I think back in 2007, where they would literally round up every transaction and move it into a savings account. There are some competitors of ours, savings apps, who will round up money but only take it on a weekly or a monthly basis. So the money's still in your account, and it's just being rounded up to an amount to be taken, not in a real-time way. And I think if we wanted to implement it, I personally want it to be real time, because then the money is going to be invested as soon as possible. And there just doesn't seem to be a cost-effective way of doing that right now for us.
That makes total sense. So what are the benefits from the consumer and Nutmeg's point of view of using open banking over a credit or a debit card?
So we did talk about this a little bit throughout, but I can definitely highlight again from the business perspective, the cost savings. We can't deny that the flat rate that we have for each open banking transaction, it is lower than a card transaction for our average transaction amount, which is in the it can be up to thousands of pounds at one point. And then for the consumer, we have customers that want money to go into the markets as soon as possible. And we trade twice a week, typically twice a week. This is obviously subject to change if the market's volatile, if there's bank holidays, we'll move it or whatever. But what can happen with a longer settlement time is you actually end up being out of the market for, you'll make a card payment on a Monday. And if we don't receive that until halfway through the week, perhaps you've missed a trading cycle and then you need to wait for the next one. Whereas with a bank transfer, if you can be traded on the same day if you make a bank transfer before we kick off the trading process. So really, it's a faster way of paying in. It feels very secure. I think that and it is very secure. Our customers, some of the feedback we've got is that they really liked having the Face ID and Touch ID element. It feels like a really nice way of funding an account, because I think a key difference for us is that while they are payments transactions, it's a customer is moving their money from their realm into ours, and it's still their asset. It's still, the investments are theirs. It's not ours. So the feeling is that this is more of a funding process than like a purchase process. And I think because of that, because of higher transaction values, actually that having the bank authentication and the app redirects it's a really nice way of paying in. It's a very positive user experience.
And I also suppose if you're new to Nutmeg and you don't have your card handy or your wallet handy, being able to just click your bank and redirect through is also a great experience.
Yeah, and if you lose your card, that's annoying, and you have to update it everywhere. And this, you don't really have this problem here.
So the next one is about payouts, and I know Nutmeg obviously don't use our payout service, as you have your own Bax integration going at the moment for that. But we can offer payouts, and we do offer payouts to a number of clients for instant withdrawals. And so it is a service that we operate. It is something outside of open banking. I don't know if you have anything to add on how you guys do instant payouts right now, Charlie.
So we don't do instant payouts. Withdrawals can take a couple of working days to clear because you have to hit a trading cycle for us to sell assets, and then we put it into a Bax withdrawal process. But payout functionality is something that's appealing to us. It's a reasonably hands-on experience at the moment internally for us. So yeah, any kind of improvements we can make to the withdrawal experience is interesting to us. So that's something we'll be looking at in the future.
And so did you see an uptake in the volume of investments after implementing open banking?
I think it's too hard to say. We've had a really strong year. It feels like we've definitely bucked a trend, and customers have been, even with the pandemic going on, I think that having some more certainty in the Brexit process, for example, we're seeing fantastic performance year on year. So it's very hard to put that down just to open banking payments. What I would say is that since we set it as the default option to pay in on mobile, there's been really fantastic uptake of that. I think that's what has driven the significant increase in bank transfers, being a quarter of our one-off transactions now. Yeah.
Excellent. So is there a time frame for variable recurring payments becoming available? So
good question.
This is,
I'd like to
know. So this is something that the OBIE has recently started their consultation on. It's something TrueLayer has been doing with Starling Bank and the FCA in their sandbox for about a year to kind of really test how this can work and what the consumer rights are and whether this service is a viable service. And so I would expect it to be a year plus at this point. And so it's something that we can probably expect in 2022. But it's something that is up for discussion at the moment. And the more pressure that the FCA, the CMA, and the OBIE put on the banks, the more likely it is going to be sooner. And so we're always really happy to hear about customer demand for it because it allows us to put that little bit more pressure on to get this service built. So have you found an issue of people selecting the wrong account when they get to the bank, e.g. a credit card?
So it's a good question. I haven't heard of any myself, but this is something that could happen if you have a list of accounts in your bank. Maybe you'll select your savings account by accident. One thing to note is that like a credit card account would not come up in that list. It needs to be an account with it needs to be a debitable account with cash in it. So a customer can't accidentally select a credit card. There's no way that Nutmeg would be able to accept an investment from a loan or from credit because it's just too high risk.
Yeah, exactly. And we know them as payment accounts, the ones that are available. And so even not all savings accounts are available. It's often, so for instance, if I log into my Barclays and I try to pay in to Nutmeg, I'm not going to see my ISA. I'm only going to see like an easy saver that's also a payment account. And another thing to note is that you can also specify on our API which account you want to use, so the user will be displayed with less. So for instance, if Nutmeg has done a verification of my bank account already, and they want to limit me to my one account, they could send my specific details of my current account with Barclays and I wouldn't see my savings account at the same time. So it's very customizable from the implementer's point of view. And then I think we have one last question, which is, do you use TrueLayer for international payments?
So no, I mean, the short answer is no. Like we don't have, you need to be a UK resident to have an account with Nutmeg, and you need to have a UK bank account to use the TrueLayer service. I think that's right, George.
So we have a European payment service now, so we can operate on SEPA Credit, SEPA Instant, and live across a lot of Europe. So we can do transactions on SEPA. In Nutmeg's case, we don't. We just do GBP.
Yes, we just do GBP. That's right. Yeah.
Awesome. So I don't see any more questions. We do have a little bit of time left. So if anybody has a last minute question, I'll give you a minute to get that in.
Hoping the lights won't turn off again. It's a bit. I found myself talking quietly because I'm in an empty office, which is very strange.
I'm currently trying not to wake up a puppy, so.
Okay. Nice.
Okay. Well, we've had no more questions, so I think we're pretty safe to close off. So before I do a whole list of thank yous, we are going to be distributing a report based on the information that we displayed at the beginning of this, the beginning of this presentation. And there will be something downloadable to learn more about TrueLayer and learn more about Nutmeg. And so please do sign up for those things. But yeah, thank you very much, Charlie, for joining me here and going through my endless list of questions. It was really exciting to hear about the process, and having been involved in it myself, it was good to see this kind of finally go live and now be used in the wild. But also thank you to the brilliant teams at both TrueLayer and at Nutmeg, who prepped us both for these sessions and helped us get this over the line.
Yeah. And if you want to learn more about Nutmeg, you can head over to our website at www.nutmeg.com. You can find us at the Nutmeg team on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And feel free to message me on LinkedIn if you've got any specific questions about the webinar or about open banking payments. More than happy to have a chat.
Awesome.
Charlie Masters is my name, if you didn't catch that earlier.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I think we can end it here.
Brilliant.